Welcome to the Lift Big Eat Big show, episode number 26, I think it is. Today we're going to touch on plyometrics. We've got some news from the CrossFit world that I know Mona is dying to share, and we'll go from there. But we have myself, James DeLacy, professional strength and conditioning coach. We have Colin Wolf, 2 times world's strongest man competitor, masters in sport and exercise science, and Mona DeLacy with little Mia, Commonwealth medalist in Olympic weightlifting, 6 times karate world champion, and CrossFit Games athlete, so multi-sport. And then little Mia DeLacy there, who is going to be some champion in something. I'm sure she's so fast twitch still. But we'll go straight into today's topic. And it's maybe one that doesn't get talked about often, at least not within physique or strength sports. And it kind of depends on the sport itself. So it'll be interesting to get your guys' take on this from the two different strength sports backgrounds. But plyometric training, and I'll just quickly preface or define what plyometrics are and what they aren't. Typically, when you search plyometrics on Google or wherever it is, you'll come across just a lot of people jumping. I mean, I think a lot of people now use plyometrics within physique routines for some reason. You know, those chicks that like jump, do those like squat jumps continuously, and then they do that stuff, and it's a plyometric workout or something to tone your legs and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that is not plyometric. Neither is jumping. So box jumps and things are not plyometrics by the strict definition. They are jumps. So plyometrics involve very fast ground contact. So if you're going by the original definition by Dr. Michael Yesis, who brought plyometrics from the Soviet Union over to America, it's having a ground contact time of less than 250 milliseconds. And to put that into perspective, you're basically looking at only sprinting, and things like jumping rope and things would fit into that category. And then obviously there's some specialist exercises that we can dive into as well. But those are basically the only two things that fit. Everything else fits outside of a plyometric exercise.
What about the depth jump?
Yes, plyometric is part of that shock method, even though the ground contacts are longer, but and there's depth jump and drop jump. They're two different exercises, even though they're used interchangeably. We'll dive into that too. But when we're talking about jumps and plyometrics, you can categorize it as well as a fast stretch shortened cycle component and a slow stretch shortened cycle. So a plyometric activity is a rapid change of eccentric to concentric muscle action. So a rapid lengthening. So for example, I hit the ground when I'm jumping rope and my Achilles tendon lengthens. And then a rapid shortening. So I'm jumping in the air as I jump rope, and then the Achilles shortens. That is a plyometric activity. The same thing happens when you're jumping, for example, dipping down to jump onto a box, but it's much slower. So that's when you're getting into a fast stretch shorten and a slow stretch shorten, just for definition terms. Now, a lot of the research surrounding plyometric training, the benefits of it, how to use it, they kind of use plyometric interchangeably between jumps and actual plyometrics. So taking the data and trying to extrapolate out to just plyometrics or just jumping, you can't really do. A lot of it is jumping and plyometric work put together. So that's just something to preface this. But I know I was going to start with you, Mona. I don't know if Mia's all good there, but I know you use plyometrics extensively within Olympic weightlifting. What's been your experience there?
Yes, now I wanted to also add, I actually started doing plyometrics even way before that. I started doing it when I was training for my karate as well. And that's when my dad got me into doing a lot of plyometrics and drills and things like that. And I know James is not a big fan of that stuff, but it really made a difference in the way I moved and my reaction time and stuff like that. And I was a big fan. Well, I wasn't a big fan when I did it, but I was a big fan in the results that I got from doing ladder drills and things. And that's why I asked you, even I did a lot of depth jumps and depth jumps leaps and quick leaps. And I did a lot of medicine ball jumps, throws and things like that. And I know some of those things James would probably not categorize as plyometrics. I'm not quite sure, but those were the kind of things that I did that really made a difference in my strength, in my power. And obviously I did then Olympic weightlifting as well to then help my explosiveness and my force development and power and all of those things in my karate. And the proof is in the pudding. With me, I went from failing my first ever grading in karate to becoming a 6-time karate world champion. And the thing that made the biggest difference is my strength, my speed, my reaction time, and all of those kind of things. But I intentionally trained it when I competed, like my first time, or when I failed my first ever grading. I just kind of I loved karate, and I wanted to be like a martial artist, and I didn't really put any like intent into my training. But then when I started training like really hard, and I trained with a purpose and a goal in mind, that's when I obviously started seeing like huge, just developmental differences. And yeah, I mean, I think I was like 14 or 15, and I fought girls in the 21 and over group with Kumite. And I, I mean, I didn't just like beat them, I hurt them. And like
You
that
fucked them
to
up.
me,
Is that what you're
I
saying?
don't know, James, is probably like yeah, it's probably not something to be like, oh, but it was it was really good. Like people wanted to know like what did I do. Like I was this small little skinny girl, and I had a lot of power and strength. But I also did Olympic weightlifting at that time, which made a massive difference. And then when I fully switched over to Olympic weightlifting, we continued doing all of the plyometrics and things. And then, for example, when I got put into the national team to represent South Africa in weightlifting, I would go on training camps to Egypt and Hungary and Germany and those kind of like countries to prepare for like international competitions. And one of the things that I also noticed was the Egyptians, who has a very good name in weightlifting. They've got multiple like world champions, Olympic medalists, those kind of things, and their Olympic team is really, really strong. And one of the things that I really love being on a training camp with the Egyptians is they train very similar to the way I used to train, with doing things like jumps and jumps over boxes, and medicine ball throws, and like quick foot drills and things like that. And even when it came to like the barbell work, we would do a lot of like quick explosive movements and things like that. And that kind of just made me also enjoy training more. But I actually, like, if you look at the Egyptian athletes, they are one of the most explosive, powerful athletes that you will see. And again, I don't know if it's because of doing all the plyometrics and the explosive work, or is it actually like just maybe in their genetics? I don't know. But I became an explosive athlete. And again, I don't know if I genetically would have been that. I felt like I trained it, but for me, it made a difference.
Nice. Yeah, it's very beneficial in sports, I mean, even in some strength sports. I mean, one of the recent meta-analysis is kind of like the pooling of all of the eligible studies within that category or on that topic, and they kind of pull it all together and bring all the subjects into one data set, basically, and they pull data from there. But there's a good one showing there's a practically significant increase of around 20 kilos in strength compared to control groups, so groups doing plyometrics versus not. And that's in like 1RM squat, 1RM leg press, isometrics, and isokinetic peak force. So it seems to be there is something there with plyometrics. I mean, if you go down to some of the mechanisms behind why, just one of them. So I mean, there's multiple mechanisms around how plyometrics enhance muscle architecture, or the way a muscle is, I guess, formed. But one of the key areas, and one that I always go back to on the reason why you have to lift heavy, but you also have to do high velocity strength training or plyometrics if your goals are sports performance, is one little graph that kind of lays it out. I'm going to explain it here. It's going to be, hopefully I'm going to be able to explain a graph here. So basically a change in muscle length happens, and you get change from, say, 0 newtons of force up to 100 newtons of force, just as an example. But then you have a length feedback component, and essentially a rate of stretch. You get an excitability from the muscle spindles. Boom, you get higher force outputs, but then you have this dampening effect. And it's a force feedback component of the Golgi tendon organ that sits in the tendon. And the problem is, in beginners or relatively untrained people, this Golgi tendon organ switches on really quick. Basically, it puts the brakes on. It's like, hey, there's too much force being generated. I don't like it. We're going to get injured. I'm going to essentially throttle it. I'm going to put the brakes. So it's like pulling the handbrake, basically, on whatever's happening. And it turns on really early in untrained individuals. But as you become as you do heavy strength training and as you do plyometrics, you're able to kind of blunt this, and you basically inhibit this response, and it doesn't come on so quickly. So you can essentially reach higher levels of force production. And that's one of the mechanisms behind plyometrics and being able to produce more force. So incorporating plyometrics within your own training, if your goal is sports performance, and even if you're just looking to get stronger, can have these benefits because you're kind of getting both those sides and attacking some of those mechanisms. But I'm assuming plyometrics probably don't play much of a role in strongman. 180 kilo dude doing some jumping or jumping rope and things probably doesn't happen so much.
No, so in general, like I wouldn't really use them. I've heard some arguments for them, talking about ground contact time and whatnot, and that, potentially it would make you move faster when you're carrying loads, but I just don't think it transfers at all. Even if you're going with a very light farmer's walk weight, your ground contact time is going to be a lot longer than if you're doing a maximal sprint. And then the other argument is that so a lot of the time in strongman, you're doing carries where you do have to run back with no weight. So essentially, they'll call it a sprint, or it's only like 20 meters, whatever. Same thing, a lot of the time, the determining factor is how heavy it is. So it's going to be how strong you are at carrying the actual load. It would be a very kind of specific, a very niche case where you take probably a lighter athlete who's super strong, and for whatever reason, they're just not, there's a little bit of room that they could potentially sprint back to the next implement a little bit faster. Maybe you could implement them a little bit there. But in general, with strongman training, like, recovery is already a premium currency. You don't have much of it to give away. Carries cost a lot of recovery, so to add plyometrics on top of it, which may not transfer the best, it's too much risk, in my opinion. Some niche cases, like for lighter athletes in the off season where you're far away from competition and perhaps you just want to generally get a little bit more athletic, I see no issues with adding in some jumping rope or whatever. But if you're already doing carries multiple times a week, I don't think it's worth adding in. And for heavyweights in particular, I don't think it's worth it at all.
Yeah.
If we are talking including jumps, I do actually use a little bit of jumping, normally as part of the warm-up. So just in general, I like to expose athletes to many different kinds of stimulus, many different contraction types and whatnot. So I like to normally we do like a little vertical jump from only going as deep as you would go in your dip position, like your dip and drive for log or whatever. And I don't necessarily do it because, again, if you add a load, if you're doing it with a log, it's just going to change the mechanics of it a whole lot. But I really like doing it more as just a case of reinforcing them, how deep to dip, because a lot of the time, if you're going to do a maximal jump, you'll end up going a little bit deeper than you would, especially with a log, where if you dip too deep, it's going to drag you forward. In general, for strongman, especially for an intermediate strongman who has a full-time job, I wouldn't really use plyometrics at all. If we're including jumps, I do use those kind of variations, normally some kind of small vertical jump or some kind of box jump, but not where I normally use it more as like a pattern thing. Even though I know the load's different, I just like it as a nice way to get warm, reinforce that pattern, and then you move on to the actual workout. That's how I implement them. Nice. Otherwise, I would avoid them in terms of recovery.
What about throws then for you guys? I mean, you guys are doing like weight for height or weight over bar, whatever those events are as well. So I'm assuming you like medicine ball throws might play some kind of role, or just the throwing events, the throws themselves.
Most of the time, yeah. Because again, it's like you just don't. There's so many events you got to train, right? So many different qualities. So you don't normally, like some people I do have throw a kettlebell onto grass, but most of the time we just do sandbag throw because that's what you've got in a competition, or keg toss because that's what you've got. I could see some situations, say someone like Brian Shaw, whose whole life revolves around competing, when he was competing, like I could see you could do some different training sessions to work on like different qualities if you had that luxury. But even then, if you look at his training, a lot of the time it's just pretty close to the specific event work,
Mm.
and then doing general strength training, because that's what's gonna, like, it's not like the loads are light, so getting stronger is going to be
Yeah.
the number one thing that's going to help you.
Nice. And I'm just going to run through some other benefits of doing plyometrics. And a lot of them center around muscle architecture, so changes in the actual muscle. So you can increase muscle fascicle length, or just in layman terms, you essentially increase the length of the muscle fiber. This is important for injury reduction. So typically you get the best gains of doing this through eccentric training, but you can get a little bit of it through plyometric training. So you basically get faster contraction velocities of the muscle. So if you're concerned about speed, that's what you're getting that from the increased muscle fiber length. And then also you're getting increased force production at longer muscle lengths. And this is where the injury reduction comes in. So for example, if you're sprinting, hamstrings are the most commonly injured. If the angle you produce peak torque or rotational force, we'll just call it force, and the hamstring is when your knee is bent at 90 degrees. When you start sprinting at very high speeds and you get past that, obviously you cannot produce as much force, and that's when you start to see injury problems. So being able to lengthen that or change that angle is beneficial for that. The other one is pennation angle. So pennation angle is essentially the orientation of your muscle fibers in relation to the line of force. So if you think about your bicep, the line of force is, elbow to shoulder, and then your muscle fibers might flare out slightly diagonally from there. And the straighter they can be, the faster the contraction velocity, the more force that can be produced that way. And then the more flared out they are, so bodybuilders will have a greater pennation angle because it's better for muscle size. Interestingly, if you actually look at the research, it actually shows plyometrics increase pennation angle, which doesn't really make too much sense. But that's because when you actually dive into it, it's like studies of people doing like weighted jump squats and lots of jump squats and stuff, not actual plyometrics. And the subjects are all untrained. And then when you actually go to competitive athletes and things who only do sprint and jump training, you see a decrease in pennation angle. So that's just something to be aware of. Another benefit is increasing tendon stiffness. Stiffness sounds like a bad thing, but active stiffness within sport is one of the most important things for force and power production. You don't want, essentially, think of it like you drop a golf ball onto the floor and you drop, a water balloon that doesn't burst onto the floor. The golf ball bounces higher because it is quote unquote stiffer and it's able to resist deformation, essentially. So when your foot hits the ground, if you can be like a spring off the floor versus a water balloon, that's going to help you with explosiveness. But then obviously you've got improvements in jump performance, sprint performance, all the usual stuff that comes with plyometrics. The last benefit I'll mention before we go into some examples is the muscle slack theory and the idea of pretension. So this is brought down the sports performance world, but it's basically the theory that muscles in a relaxed state are almost like a hanging rope. So if you think about maybe two cars, one's broken down, you attach a big rope between the cars, and then that slack in the middle is your muscle. And as you start to tow the car, the broken car doesn't move until there's tension in the rope. And that's the idea around pretension and the muscle slack theory. And plyometrics can help develop that, since you're jumping off boxes or over hurdles. Before you hit the ground, you have to have that pretension to resist deformation to create that stiffness. And that's a skill that can be developed and learned too. So those are just some higher level benefits of using plyometrics. But I think where people get plyometrics wrong is their application. And I'm sure we've all seen the magazines, the articles, the videos, whatever, of it's usually physique chicks, fitness Instagram influencers doing plyometric workouts as part of their their glute.
Like HIIT workouts, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, they call it whatever buzzword they use. Yeah.
I actually heard this on like a podcast today, and they were talking about one of the bodybuilders that I know. Like, she was saying that she's been including like box jumps and things like that, and then
and I was like, why? And
and then
what a coach gave her, and I was like, okay.
Well, someone then said like it's like HIIT workouts. So that's why I was like, they see it, and you see these like Instagram girls, and they'll do these like jumps and things like that, and they like do these like jumps and plyometrics and things, and it will increase.
Oh, so they do it for like cardio as well, right? Like that's like their cardio.
Like their glutes and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you as well, like what, like if you had to give like advice to like a beginner person, like this person has never done strength training in their life, like they basically come from like being sedentary, and not a youngster, I'm talking like someone maybe in like their 30s that want to start their fitness journey or strength journey, like would you recommend someone like that does plyometrics, or should they rather just focus on getting themselves strong?
Both, but you wouldn't. There's levels to the plyometrics, right? You got beginner level, and you kind of work your way up, and you don't even need to touch the high end pretty much ever. I mean, I still haven't programmed the very high intense end for the professional athletes that I've worked with, just because there's just been no need. But you can, but you don't have to. So if you're
And
starting,
what about like obese athletes, or not obese athletes, like people people that are overweight?
people overweight, yeah, you're not going to use plyometrics. Like, I mean, you're not training for performance at all, then, right? You need to bring your weight down to improve health and longevity, joints, etc. But if you're I don't know, if you're a reasonable weight, etc., and you're looking to get stronger, be more healthy, be more athletic, which I think a lot of people, I mean, the birth of hybrid, not the birth, I guess the resurgence of hybrid training and all that has kind of brought that along too. But you start with jumping rope. Like, that's like the low level one plyometric exercise. Do that, and you can start with 10 skips, a couple of sets of 10 on day one, and you can kind of work up from there. And the things I've made you do, Mona, with the extensive jump and plyometric circuits, I don't know if you remember doing any of those, where you're doing like a shit ton of jumps within a circuit. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I did in karate as well. That's why I was
yeah,
like, I
that's good.
like doing those kind of things. Like, I like anything that, in that way, that's like athletic and that challenges me. But like I said, for me, like it makes me actually enjoy training more, doing those kind of things. But then, like, people should know that you shouldn't always just go for like the things that are fun, because you must be like a certain level. That's why I said, if you are potentially like a beginner or someone that's overweight, should you rather not focus on those kind of things?
Yeah.
Because even like things like box jumps, I have seen like some CrossFit coaches who won't start like a person who was completely like a beginner, and maybe someone is overweight. Instead of having them start like doing like step ups, they would have them do box jumps.
Burpee box jumps.
But whatever, like, and I've seen like some of those people look almost like they are literally going to like die. Like, it did not look healthy.
Yeah. Well,
Like, you're laughing, but like this is the kind of stuff that I saw, and as like a coach, I would have been like, okay, listen, let's start from the basics. Like, you can barely do a step up. Why not start with things like step ups and whatever, like low intensity things, before you like make a person jump.
Yeah.
And
It's the same thing in plyometrics and jumping. There's a reason you don't start someone stepping off a 100-inch box to hit the ground and jump. But there's a reason you don't put 100 kilos on the bar for the new person to come squat, etc. You got to work your way up to it. So same thing in plyometrics. I really love the extensive, which is just another word for submaximal circuits. You develop work capacity, but you also build tendon robustness. So basically, you're preparing yourself for the more intense plyometrics and jumps down the line. So, for example, you might do 20 ankle pogos, so basically jumping rope without jumping rope. Then you might do 10 jump squats with your hands on your hips. But remember, these are all submaximal. These are just like smooth and rhythmic. Then you might do another 20 ankle pogos going forward. Then you might do lateral jump squats, so side to side with 2 feet. Again, smooth and rhythmic. Then you might do 20 backwards ankle pogos. And then you might finish with some other bilateral jump. It could even be like 90-degree rotational jump squats, just anything like that. And that would be like one circuit. And you'll just do one circuit in the first week and you build from there. That's just an example. You can also do, Vern Gambetta has an awesome leg circuit. I know we did that during lockdown, Mona. That was killer. I don't know if you've seen it.
it was so deceiving and so easy. And I've given this to some of like my athletes before, that ones that actually, it was during COVID time, and I was like, hey, listen, try this out. And they were like, oh, can I do it with a weighted vest and all these things? I don't know if you can remember.
You can't do it with a weighted vest. It's so hard.
Like, yeah, go ahead. And literally, they did one round with a weighted vest. They took it off. They were like, "This thing is brutal."
And
then
that wasn't even the full circuit either. So
that was like that was the beginner one, right?
Yeah. So because it's so intense, it gets broken down over 6 weeks to build to it. But basically, it's all body weight. So it's 20 squats, then 20 lunges, 10 each leg, then 20 step ups, 10 each leg, and then 10 jump squats. And the proper circuit is doing that 5 times through with no rest. And Vern uses that as a marker. Like once you can do that, you're ready for all plyometrics, whatever it is you want to do, any explosive activities. But you got to build your way up to it. So like there's an unprepared build up, which starts you at like half the reps and like half the sets. And then there's like the more fit version that starts you at the same number of reps, but takes away the sets and builds you up that way. And the earlier weeks during that, you get rest between the exercises and you get rest between the circuits. But you build to a point where you do all 5, no rest, bro. If you're looking to develop some work capacity in your legs, that is, now that you're trying to get more endurance and stuff, Colm, maybe you got. I mean, I have to send you.
Yeah, I might look into that actually and start at the very easy side. How long?
Start the easy one.
How long do you reckon one go through the circuit would be? The finished product, just out of curiosity.
Wait, how long would it take to go through all 5 rounds?
No, just one round.
Oh, 1 round?
Like just over a minute, right?
No, yeah, it might be 2. And the cadence you want to keep is almost like 1 second for each rep for the squat. So I think it's similar with the lunge too. So it's 1 second each rep. So yeah, ends up being like a minute.
Sounds so brutal to me.
Dude, it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It is damn hard. I think I've made it through like 3-4 weeks of like the progression. I was just like, holy shit.
Colm should do it and then give us some feedback next week on the podcast.
I'll have to send it to him. I'll take a picture of it and send it. But yeah, if anyone's interested in that, if you just search Vern Gambetta, Gambetta, and then leg circuit, it should pop up on Google, the leg circuit. I think I might have published it on Lift Big Eat Big actually at some point.
I also posted it on my Instagram because when we did it, I posted the whole thing and gave credit to Vern because of it. And yeah, very deceiving, but it's a really good workout. Like,
so have you done it like all 5?
Hell no! You got to be dedicated to get to that all 5 circuits in a row. We did get quite far though, didn't we? We got to a point where we were doing like, I can't remember. We had rest. You get like 30 seconds rest by the time you get closer to it after each circuit.
Well, I think we worked. I can't remember how far we got, but I do remember we did like 30 seconds rest. I think there were like maybe 1 or 2 that we actually went straight through and then we rested after that. Yeah, because we did a lot of those kind of things. It's crazy how when you don't do like body weight exercises like that, how it becomes such an eye-opener how unfit you actually are. Like you can be an athlete, but you can be unfit in those kind of things.
Now imagine doing it with the blood flow restriction cuffs on.
Has someone done that?
Yeah. No.
James has been on this like bandwagon. He was even saying to me, because I've been doing a lot more like bodybuilding stuff, he's like, I think for you to get like a massive pump, you should start.
Dude, I talked to
putting up.
I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. I interviewed Chris Gaviglio. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. It's Italian. Gaviglio. I said way wrong. He's the blood flow restriction PhD dude out of Australia, and so I interviewed him. Dude, blood flow restriction, man. He's using it all the damn time, especially for old beat up strength athletes or old beat up athletes.
Yeah.
Like probably all of us. He just uses it during his warm-ups. He uses it every single session. So he'll like just alternate if he's doing upper body or lower body or whatever he's doing. He'll just alternate where he puts the cuffs each session. And he says he feels like so good doing it. He can get like as much done in 2 sets as someone who's not using it in 3 sets.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to send me some of them. So I'm gonna.
You don't have to use a heavy load with it, right?
No, but you can. That's what he's saying. So a lot of the research initially was like, hey, only 20 to 40% 1RM. But he's like, man, there's a lot of good research now and a lot of experience that he's done using like 70, 80%.
Hey, far out.
Yeah.
What sort of exercises?
But you're not doing
with that?
Squats, bench,
Damn.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you're not doing crazy reps, yeah.
Yeah.
We did it in Romania too. We did I don't know what workout we were doing, but it was also during the time when I was doing my rehab training, when I had my quad tendon rupture. I was doing a leg press. And
I remember that.
Yeah, and then I put the floss around and the cuffs or whatever, and
I think you got mad at me though.
Yeah. I couldn't even like get myself out of that thing, and I said to James, like, this is dumb. But I did it, and like, I mean, the funny thing is, like, when I do things like that, whenever I have like also hip pain or knee pain or whatever, like, it basically is just like it's weird. Like, I don't want to like, but it's fixed.
You use it for pain as well. So if you have funny knees before a training session, you wrap it right up the top of your leg by your hip, and you might do some like squats, whatever movements don't hurt, get blood pumping in there, and then you're pretty much good to go. So anyway, that's off the topic of plyometrics and something you shouldn't use with plyometrics. But we might have to do a blood flow restriction episode. I'm actually going to... We should what? Oh yeah, okay. Hold up 1 second, quickly, before we get to go into some exercises for the listeners. Give them some practical. Okay, some practical advice for plyometrics. Start low level, little circuits, jumping rope, ankle pops, jump squats, etc. Or that leg circuit. Then as you become more advanced, obviously you can do your other jumps, box jumps, vertical jumps, all that kind of stuff works. But more advanced plyometrics are like drop jumps, so stepping off like a 30 centimeter box, hitting the ground, and jumping as high as possible, but spending the least amount of time on the ground as possible. Again, we don't do these as a HIIT workout, as you see on Instagram and things. These are for developing speed and power, not for a cardio thing. You're going to waste yourself if you start doing this stuff as a cardio thing. You're just wasting your time. Depth jump is another variation, but it has more knee bend when you hit the ground. So you're dropping off from an even higher box. And you're spending longer on the ground with the goal to jump as high as you can, but not to spend the least amount of time on the ground as possible. So those are the two differences between those. They're both part of Verkhoshansky's shock method. If you search shock method on Google, you'll probably find a lot of information on that. Hurdle hops is my personal favorite because you bring in the rhythm of the jumping, especially for athletic activities. So it's basically like doing multiple drop jumps because you're just kind of jumping over hurdles, hitting the ground, jumping over again. Goal again is to spend the least amount of time on the ground possible. And you can change the rhythm. You can space the hurdles differently. You can have high hurdles, low hurdles. You can have double bounces between all the heaps of different stuff you can do that's really good. Bounding's another one if anyone's into sprinting or running as another plyometric activity single leg. But I think that covers everything we have with plyometrics there. And maybe we'll also do an episode on blood flow restriction training soon. I'll break down all the research on the Lift Big Epic website, and then we can jump on here. But I know, Moni, you had some news, some CrossFit tea, as you would say.
I was literally going to say I've got some CrossFit tea to spill. I was literally, James actually came across this article, and I still want to go through like the Instagram post and like some of the comments and things like that.
Yeah, it's on the article's on Barbend, so shout out to David Tao, the co-owner of Barbend.
Yeah, and like most people will know Brooke Wells. I think she's been in the CrossFit world competing at the CrossFit Games, I think for 8 years. I think she's done 8 games. But yeah, very well-known athlete, always places amongst like the top of the rankings with, things like the Open and the Games, etc. And yeah, just has always had that big name in CrossFit. And a couple of years ago, she moved over to Proven, which is basically Shane and Tia's, like they say, it's Shane and Tia's camp. And basically their like training program, etc. And I think she was training with Tia as well for quite some time. And they seem to have made obviously like really good training partners. And I've always seen like Tia being like super supportive of her. And I even remember like this year with Tia not competing at the games, like Tia was like all in Brooke Wells' corner and things. So I don't know if something happened or whatever, but Brooke Wells made the announcement. They said on the 18th of September that she is moving from Proven over to HWPO, which is Matt Fraser's program. And like, I know Matt and Tia is also very close, but basically what I read in this article was that I think the last CrossFit Games that Brooke Wells competed in, she placed fifth, which is really high for her. I mean, a year ago, she had, I think it's elbow shoulder reconstructive surgery after blowing it out in a snatch. So I'm assuming it's an elbow. Um, and, then being with on the training camp with Tia and Shane, she ended up going from blowing out her elbow, getting reconstructive surgery, to placing fifth at the CrossFit Games, which is a massive placing. And now she's made the decision to move over to HWPO, which she says the reason is hopefully with their training, she will be able to get herself to the podium. Now, Matt is now a retired athlete. Tia is obviously a retired athlete, but with Tia, like, obviously Shane does, or I won't say Tia's retired, but Tia just had a baby, so she's most probably going to make a comeback. But with Matt Fraser being, a retired athlete, he's got quite a few elite level CrossFitters now on his team. But it was quite interesting to see that she's making this move. And to kind of know like the backstory of why she wanted to make this move. I know she said she wants to place higher, but I also wanted to say on here is like it doesn't always work that way. Obviously, like, I wish her like the best as an athlete, and I hope that she does get the podium spot. But I also know that switching coaches isn't the easiest thing. You don't just switch to a coach and all of a sudden you perform better. It takes years and years and years for a coach to get to know an athlete, especially at a high performance level. You need to get to know the athletes, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what makes them tick. Like, there's certain things where like you have to just be so honed in with training when it comes to that kind of level athlete that if you make small mistakes, it could cost the athlete's placing in a massive event like that. So yeah, I'm interested to see what the next CrossFit season is going to look like. Now I'm feeling like I'm going to follow really closely to see where she's going to be placing at. Obviously she needs to qualify for the next games, but I'm almost certain she will. Just to see where she places.
It's interesting. It's interesting as well, obviously, but there's a novelty factor too to play into this. That's why when people when they switch coaches, you see huge performance improvement because they've been training one way for so long. I mean, this has been relatively short, but you never know. They train one way for so long, and then they go to a new coach who has a different philosophy. And then because the stimulus is so novel, they get these huge gains in performance. People go, "Oh, new coach, blah, blah, blah." And then obviously that plateaus off once they get used to that training stimulus too. And then find a new one, etc. So it could be a bit of that too. Like if she moves, maybe she's going to see crazy times, whatever, and all the WODs, and people will be like, "Oh, it must be Matt Fraser's coaching, blah blah blah." But it could just be an entirely different way of doing things.
Yeah,
that she responds to there. But when is the qualifying start? Doesn't it start soon? They sandwich everything so close together, right?
Yeah, they just finished the games like not too long ago, so I'm pretty sure that it used to be in the beginning of the year. It was the CrossFit Open, so I'm sure that will be the CrossFit Open. Then they've got like quarterfinals, semifinals, and then only do they have CrossFit Games. So we'll probably only hear closer to like May of next year. She qualified for the CrossFit Games I think May or June, because the CrossFit Games is always in August, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess we'll see then. What you mentioned, actually, that's very true about that novelty, and maybe even like it's a team thing. Maybe she doesn't get along with someone in the team. Maybe she's been feeling
dramas, You speculate.
Yeah, excluded or whatever, or not feeling like like the main person anymore. Maybe moving over to like Matt Fraser's thing. Obviously with Tia and them, Tia was the number one, and I think Tia will always be like the number one of the Proven training camp or whatever. But I think with her moving over to HWPO, she will now be like the face of that and the female of that. Because I don't know.
That's true, actually, because they don't.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone
I,
else. It's just Matt Fraser as
no, I
the face,
think
right?
actually Emily, that new girl, Emily. I don't know who she's with, but she might actually be with Matt Fraser too.
Hmm. Interesting.
And if
Interesting.
Emily is with them, then that means it could also be that, it's she's seen her improve so massively because she went from like being like competing at the CrossFit Games and not, she did well. She's a rookie. She's a young athlete, but then she came now and placed second. Was it second? Yeah, she placed
Hmm.
second at the CrossFit
Oh, did
Games.
you know Amy
Uh,
Everett's the lift head coach there?
yeah, so Amy programs their weightlifting stuff for them.
Hmm. And then Colin, did you know Rob Kearney is their strong
Oh,
man
okay.
head coach? Yeah, how
So
about that, eh?
are both camps like well, the first camp? Did they train out of? Are they based out of America as well? Oh
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
relocated to the States.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually checking it to see who are if I can see some of the top athletes that train. Yeah.
Yeah. While Mona
Um,
does that, any drama coming out of the strongman world, Colin?
yeah.
Or is there just not much happening until the next events?
There were some events. I don't want to speak on them though because I haven't had a chance to catch up with the other stuff
Hmm.
that I've been dealing with. I saw Luke Richardson won, which is a nice. He's been out I think for 3 years after being injured, and he finally managed to come back and win without getting injured. So I know he'll be stoked. Um, but yeah,
Nice.
I want to make sure I have a proper look before I comment on that. Um,
No, fair
but
enough.
I think the idea of switching coaches is an interesting one because I agree with like both of what you've said. There's definitely um, like the athlete coach relationship will develop over the years. Like there's so much to learn about what works for that certain
Yeah.
person. There's definitely a novelty factor as well though with the changing training styles. But I tell you, in strongman, I swear, a lot of the time these days, it's someone will go to a new coach. There'll be some kind of new training style. They'll get fantastic results. You talk to the person, you find out, they found a way to increase your dose of steroids or, dose of whatever you're taking. So you'll see certain people like swapping between certain coaches because they've got, certain strongmen.
Steroid
Yeah, with
protocols.
strongmen, being untested and whatnot, they all have their
That's
different
hilarious.
protocols, different, um, but it definitely muddies the water in terms of like information on training and that because that's
I'm assuming they sell these programs afterwards too.
yeah, I suppose. I mean, a lot of them do coaching and stuff like that, online coaching. A lot of them are honest with their clients, but it's like, let's say athlete A goes to a different coach, gets a new drug protocol or whatever, and seems to respond to it. All their numbers go up, they get bigger, but then they tell everyone or like the general public it's because of I started doing plyometrics. Let's just use that as an example. Suddenly all the grassroots sports are going to think, man, as strongman we need to start doing plyometrics. That's just an example though, it could be anything, but honestly I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if the same sort of thing goes on in CrossFit as well. I mean it definitely goes on in MMA and other sports.
Oh, yep. Combat sports is notorious
Mm.
for. If you remember the old Conor McGregor touch butt in the park, that was
Oh
like
yeah.
that's still the
Oh man, that was
Mr. Ido Portal. Everyone's like, as soon as I see, like, sometimes I'll look at some things pop up, obviously in the space, and various coaches, and I'll check their bios and stuff, and it's like, oh, I learned under Ido Portal. I'm like
yeah.
instant. What do you call it? Just no, just distrust right there. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I see now.
And that guy's gone now, eh?
No,
He's disappeared.
yeah, I don't know what he's up to now. He's just kind of cashed in on Connor, and then he was like, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Mm.
Fair enough, though. Fair enough. Get that money, and then oh no, he must have certifications and stuff, surely.
Yeah, I don't know. I swear they had some kind of falling out or something.
Oh, then I don't know. There you go. Ido Portal me. I can't believe we're giving this guy airtime. I mean, got to shit on someone, I guess. You can shit on him, shit on Joel Seedman. There's a bunch of them. I don't know if you see Joel Seaman stuff on Instagram.
Is that
I don't follow him, but
the
people always post
isometrics
it all the
guy?
time.
90-degree
Yeah,
isometrics?
the 90-degree guy. Can't go past 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And then he does all these whack-ass exercises like, I can't even name them because they're just fucking so stupid.
He trains some pretty high-level athletes as well, eh?
He trains all NFL guys come to him and stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's how he got his name out there.
And he's got a legit PhD, doesn't he?
Depends what you call legit, because he's a dumbass.
But he went to a legit university and
yeah, he has a PhD.
Yeah,
but it really should be redacted, to be honest.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's fine. Did you find Mona what you're looking for?
Yes, I did. So it's not Emily, it's Mel O'Brien. She's one of the 18-year-old.
The young.
Also, sensational athlete, Matt. She joined the team, and then he trains Katrine. He trains, let's see, Katrine David's daughter, Sam Quant, and Amanda Barnard. So he's got quite a hectic team. And maybe, with that team growing and becoming stronger, she obviously thought, it might be better for her, future career. Like I said, there's pros and there's cons to joining, a new team or a new coach. So I guess we will see, and then we will let you guys know.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if Mia will be starting. Will she be doing CrossFit?
I feel like this child will already be a CrossFit Games athlete.
You called it already?
Well, okay, yeah. Well, to be honest, I do want to put her into Kids Strong, which is gymnastics, but they can only start at 1, and obviously she's 7 months. But she's so far ahead. She's things that babies are not even doing it. She's climbing and standing and jumping off things, and
she's diving head first off the couch.
Yeah,
she what do you mean?
So where she can get rid of all of that energy. She'd probably come home and be like, "Look what I can do, Mom!"
Yep. And then do a backflip on
the
couch.
Hey,
say, Cole needs to train you for a bit.
Just to go back to that CrossFit change for a second, is it possible there's any kind of sponsorship or anything involved? Would she be getting paid, say, more to train with a certain team, or no? It's just purely.
No. With CrossFit, it's more you've got individual sponsorships. So regardless of where you go, it's not really rich teams. So with Tia's team or with Matt's team, I don't see them paying her anything. I think if anything, it would just be more of a decision of where she will go, where she can flourish, so she can potentially get more sponsors.
Yeah. But I think that brings us to the end today. Make sure you check out the description. Lift Big Epic Underground is in there. Has all our training programs, all Mona's weightlifting programs, all Colm's strongman programs, and all our strength and size and Lift Big Epic programs. Hey, Mia. Hello. And everything is down there in the description. So make sure you check that out, and we'll see you next week.